Frank, can I ask you a question related to that? I think I've been thinking a lot about this. I and many other people on the right have been talking, and I'm convinced that the reason Charlie was targeted, because there are many people in conservative media that say all the same things that Charlie said and fought for all the same things, but I'm convinced that the reason he was targeted is because the faith quotient was so high, which made him more powerful than everyone. Like, it's no accident he was elevated above us all in that way, to where he attracted the attention in a way that has inspired the world, but also the negative attention.
Yeah, I agree. There is a certain amount of aura that came with Charlie in terms of not just his conservative politics, but the fact that he was sold out for Jesus. And that was really his focus. In fact, just a few weeks ago, Megyn, he said, politics is peanuts compared to Jesus. Because without Jesus, look, all of us are going to check out of here in a few decades. What then, right? Politics is temporary. Jesus is eternal. And there's nothing more important than eternity. And so Charlie, while he loved politics, as I do, as I know you do, and realized it's very important to a functioning society to have the right laws in place, even from a Christian perspective, Megyn, because I hear people saying, oh, Christians, you ought not get involved in politics. Since when are we supposed to allow the atheists to run the country? And if
that's how we got into this mess.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell pastors who say, oh, I just talk about the Bible, I just preach the gospel, I don't get involved in politics. And I say to them, if you think the gospel is important, you better think politics are important, because politics affects your ability to preach and live the gospel. If you don't think so, go to some of the countries I've been to. I've been to Iran, I've been to Saudi Arabia, I've been to China. You can't have a church in Iran, not legally anyway. They can't listen to the Megyn Kelly podcast in Iran, not legally anyway. Why? Because politically they've ruled it out. So politics, while it's not our first calling as Christians, it's important because it protects our first calling, which is to go out and preach and live according to the principles that Jesus wanted us to live by.
How did you and Charlie become friends? I listened to your whole podcast the other day, and I was fascinated by the backstory, but tell us here.
Charlie happened to be in Washington State, of all places, probably in like 2020 or 2019. And for some reason, one of the TV shows that I do happened to be on public access up there in Seattle. And I don't know why, but it was. And he looked me up on the internet and he watched a lot of my videos, because I go to college campuses quite a bit as well. I co-wrote a book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And so I go to colleges, high schools, and churches and present that. And I answer a lot of questions. And so Charlie was intrigued because that's what he was doing. And so my colleague just dug out the email that he wrote us back. It was January 18th, 2020, just before COVID. And he essentially said, hi, I've been watching all of Frank's videos. They've really helped me and helped me do what I do here at Turning Point USA. I'd like to meet. And from that point on, we were fast friends. And what was happening over this summer in particular, Megyn, was he really took the college tour that was coming up here in the fall extremely seriously. And he's been studying all summer for this. And so he and I met on 4 occasions this summer. I'd fly to Phoenix and we'd spend 2 or 3 days. We'd go on these long walks. We'd sit in his office. We'd get in a conference room. Not just me, but other guys. Blake yesterday on the podcast was part of this. Danny Phillips, another researcher, was part of it. Of course, the great Mikey McCoy. What a hero the other day Mikey was. Let me tell you, Megyn, that kid is amazing.
That's this young, fresh-faced kid who Charlie said, don't go to college. He met him just as he was going off to college. He said, don't go to college. Come with me. I'm your college.
Megyn, Mikey McCoy was a hero on September 10th. If we have time, I'll tell you what he did. I mean, it's just amazing. In any event, it's not just me, but other people poured into Charlie. And the only thing that surpassed Charlie's intellect was his humility, Megyn. It's hard to be a mentor to somebody who's smarter than you. And Charlie is much smarter than me. But he knew I knew a few things he didn't know. And so he would always want to get together and go through these hard questions that he was going to get from students, particularly when it related to the evidence for Christianity and issues in the Bible, that kind of thing. And so that's what we'd get together and do. And we'd go on long walks. He'd sit there, take notes. He'd speak into his phone. Oh, that's a good insight. Let me take, And I learned a lot from him, just as much as he learned from me, I learned from him.
That was a brand new insight to me, because as good as Charlie was on these college campus appearances, it never dawned on me that he prepared. I don't know why it never dawned on me. I just thought he speaks for a few hours a day and he gives so many speeches. Maybe that's the prep. But no, he studied up for these things.
Oh, he studied big time and he was ready. I mean, he would have, he almost sounded like you, Megyn, at one point. He was talking to one kid about illegal immigration, and he started citing the U.S. Code. U.S. Code 13. And I'm going, who is he, Megyn Kelly all of a sudden? How does he know all this stuff, right? Because he had studied it. He was ready for almost every possible question, every possible contingency. He was ready.
Yeah. He just yesterday, sitting at his desk in front of Charlie's microphone, he's still got the Glenn Beck golden microphone that Glenn got from Rush right now. And also there's two little toys there, because his daughter would give him two little toys and he would take them, and she liked to see them on the air. So he would always show these toys that she'd give him. There are two sitting there. And then there is a copy of the U.S. Constitution. And I said to his team, did he always have it at his desk? And they said, oh, he always had it on him. And some of those clips of him challenging people on their knowledge of the Constitution, or whoever made the foolish mistake of asking Charlie if he understood the Constitution, learned the hard way that they had stepped on a rake.
Oh, yeah. And he had so much of it memorized, too. He said, no, that's Article 2. Article 2. You know this? Oh, yeah, he knows it. Yeah.
He loved it. Yeah. So just evidence of his preparation, his devotion to being great so that he could be heard and he could be compelling. The goal truly was to change people's minds, to actually, have them hear him past all the noise and all the nonsense that was already out there about Charlie, so they could connect and maybe listen and maybe possibly vote Trump or, rework their worldview that was being foisted on them in college.
The last walk we went on, Megyn, was Monday night. So the terrible day was Wednesday. And so we spent some time Monday, and then we both went to dinner. He wanted to have dinner with the family, he's a family man. So he said, hey, can you come back at about 8? We'll go on a walk. I said, yeah, okay. So I came back down at 8, and I texted him. I said, okay, I'm about here. He said, coming out. And then a minute later, he said, shortly, Gigi just got up. So he was obviously taking care of the baby, taking care of his daughter, because that's the kind of person he was. And then we went on this long walk, and there were two major issues that kept coming up that he wanted to be better at. He wanted to be better at explaining the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus, because he and I always spoke that if you want to show that Christianity is true, you only need to establish two facts, Megyn. If these two facts are true, then everything else falls into place. The first fact is God exists, and the second fact is Jesus rose from the dead. If God exists and Jesus rose from the dead, game over, Christianity's true. So we talked a lot about how, he said, I want to persuade kids. I want to show them, despite the skepticism they're being taught in college, I want to show them that the evidence for the resurrection is so good that they'd have to have more faith to not believe it than to believe it. And so we talked a lot about that. And then the second issue we spent a lot of time on is he really wanted America and young people in America to get back to marriage and family. Because I think you probably even covered this on your podcast at some point about that survey that came out maybe 2 weeks ago, Megyn, where it looked at Trump voters, males and females, and Harris voters, males and females, and where they put marriage and family on their priority list. You remember that?
Yeah.
And the men who voted for Trump had marriage number 1. I think the women who voted for Trump were about 5 or 6. But the women that voted for Harris, it was like 12 out of 13. Marriage is something they have no interest in. And he wanted to communicate to the world the beauty of marriage and the beauty of family. And of course, if you take care of the family, you take care of the country, because the immune system for the country is the biological two-parent family. If you keep them together, everything else will take care of itself.
When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, you'd be right. Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text MK to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to 10 grand. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before September 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and get your free info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.